Our lives have been such an incredible journey. Our ups and downs, joy, and we find ourselves in this moment, in this beautiful temple. That was a manifestation of a thought I and many others had over 40 years ago of having a place to meditate and bring people that was based on the divine harmonies of the creation. And it took 40 years. I remember when I was about 3 or 4 years old, my dad was out in the garage and he was making a chair. He really liked carpentry. He was a stockbroker, and on the weekends he would be composing, working with wood. And I was inspired. He had a couple pieces of wood that were on the garage floor, and I had my little red wagon out there. And my mom had always saved these Life magazines. She had, there was one on the cover that had this big airplane. I don't know what it was, maybe it'd be 52 or something. And I had this sudden inspiration. I was going to make one of those. So I gathered a couple 2x4s. I put one across the wagon, and then I put one down the length. But I thought, boy, this is, as a little kid, you can do something really. And it can happen, I just look at a picture and the thought is there, and wow, it's going to appear. But as I grew older, I found that sometimes the thought or manifestation and the actual thing that's manifesting may take a little bit of time and energy, like this building. Yogananda was instrumental in bringing me to this point in time in my life. When I was a young man, I was looking for a spiritual community or somewhere that I could see that coming to life when I read Autobiography of a Yogi. I could see that maybe my thoughts would propel me to a place where what he was talking about was manifesting, or could manifest. And sure enough, Spirit was pushing me towards the West Coast. I was living in Illinois at the time. And I found the Sunburst Community. And at that time, the main office was at Coda Street on Santa Barbara, in Santa Barbara. And I remember it was probably a Friday or toward the end of the week, and I had been living in this old hotel on Lower State Street. And I'd come to find out I was trying to do work. I was trying to look for work. I had no possessions. I had a backpack. That was all I had, and probably about $10 in cash in my pocket. So I got out of closed the apartment door and went downstairs, and I noticed there was this white van parked across the street. And I had heard about Sunburst the day before because I was looking for work, and one of the guys in the restaurant there that owned the restaurant, he said that they had done some work for him, but he didn't give me any other information. So I went up to the driver's side, and there was a fellow in there with a long beard, and I asked him, I'd like to spend 3 weeks at Sunburst. And the 3 weeks came from because I was visiting all these other different communities. The last one I was in New Mexico, the Lama Foundation, and that was a 3-week membership. In other words, at the end of 3 weeks, you could, if you were serious, you could go stay on for longer. But I decided not to. So he smiled and he said, "Oh, we're from Sunburst." So I only had to go about 50 feet, and then I got my directions. So then I went up 8 blocks to go to the house there, and there was a young lady in the front there with she had sitting at a desk, and she smiled at me. And as soon as I walked through that door, I felt, gee, this is so familiar. I don't know, something. I felt like something wonderful was going to happen. I couldn't describe it, but I looked in her eyes and she smiled at me, and gee, I said to myself, do I know you? You seem so familiar. and she smiled at me and she said, well, David's going to see you in a couple minutes. He was the president or the head officer for the Sunburst Community at that time. And so there was a bench facing the door to his office outside in the hall there, so I was sitting on the bench, and must have been sitting about 10 or 15 minutes. And then the door opens, and David's desk is facing directly. As the door opened, his desk was directly facing outwards towards me. And he sat down, and I was looking at him, and as I crossed through the door, my vision just blacked out. I was like, all of a sudden, I was on this hillside, and I was looking at these people that they were planting trees along this hillside. We didn't have flat screen TVs in the early 70s, but it looked like someone had put a flat screen TV right in front of me. And I was seeing this picture of these young people planting. And then all of a sudden, like switching the channel, there was a scene where I was in this big warehouse, and it was really busy. People were on hand trucks, and I moving things around. And I noticed that I looked down, and there was a box of tomatoes, and on the side of the tomatoes it said Sunburst Organic Tomatoes. And I looked at that sign, I looked at the logo on there, and then I walked in, and then all of a sudden, like that, I was in David's office, and he said, well, you'd like to come at Sunburst, why don't you get a ride from Fred up the hill to the farm later on in the day. So I hung out, and it's an interesting story because many years later not many years later, a few years later, we did have a warehouse, and that logo design was made by someone at Sunburst, and I recognized that. And then a few years later, we had an avocado operation at Tahigas, and I remember riding a motorcycle down these hills, and then we were planting trees on the side of the hill. So those thoughts are in the ethers; they're surrounding us, and we can use those thoughts, those images. We can project images into this field around us to create what we want to see. It may take time, but it seems like Sunburst is special because there were so many people in the early days that were coming together and meditating and generating a lot of energy, spiritual energy, mental energy, and physical energy. And my first couple weeks at Sunburst, even though I was really inspired and felt I was in the right place, was one of the most challenging times mentally of my entire life. I was really going through a lot of stuff. And I remember one night I was living in this little, where was I living? Anyway, it was like a dugout or something underneath the meditation room. We had like a little, there were some bunk beds or something there, and I was living in there, and I had this dream. I thought it was a dream that I was on the floor of the meditation room upstairs on my back, and I couldn't meditate. My thoughts were going through my head like, why am I here? I can't be here. This is too much. You have to give 100%. I don't know if I could give 100% to this thing. And I was just self-doubt and everything that was going through my head, and I could hardly think. And then I woke up, and Norm Paulsen, who was a very big man, was standing directly over me. He was looking down at me with a big grin on his face. And he didn't say anything. But then I woke up, and it was like, wow, there's nothing there. My mind is calm, and I'm in the moment and peaceful. So I think what happened was, a blessing. So that happened. Yogananda said that the secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, worry about the future, or anticipate troubles, but to live in the present moment wisely and earnestly. So that kind of sums up that. All I know is that the next day I was fighting a fire in Santa Barbara, or at near our community, and 36 hours of work. And I asked this, as we were finishing up on the top of Camino Cielo, I asked one of the brothers, is this like every day at Sunburst? And he said, oh, this is nothing, we're... oh. But through all the pain and everything, there were just incredible times of joy and experience. And it brings me together to this place at this moment. Yogananda also said that so long as balance of vitality is maintained by right living, proper diet, and pranayama meditation, the body's own life energy electrocutes disease before it can develop. And so what I found in the early days of Sunburst is that we were really trying to live a pure, wholesome life. We were trying to grow our own food and eat the best quality food we can. But there was always that Sunday afternoon when many of us would go down to the local Mexican food restaurant and eat food. And anyway, I remember back at Lama Foundation, there was a Bhagwan Das he was just about 2 months before this, and I caught him in the kitchen eating a 10-ounce porterhouse steak. He was a vegetarian, but can you imagine this guy? I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, so he was kind of sneaking something in there. So it didn't really matter. I don't know what I was saying there, but it didn't really matter how this, how we live our lives. It's just that we put blessing. We bless the food, and if we eat the food with a good sense of our mind and our consciousness, and we're going to feel really good afterwards. I can tell you about eating all those enchiladas on a stomach with a stomach flu, and it just felt really good, and I was healed. And that's another story. But it's true that we have the ability to use our mental power to heal. But it's always good to have a juicer and juice natural fruits and vegetables. And that was one thing that Norm was really keen on. And also, at that time, opening up natural food stores that we could provide the service of good food and good companionship there in a spiritual environment. Because Yogananda was talking about that really mental, physical, and spiritual healing, it's actually one thing. It's actually one spectrum of healing. So from the conscious state that he was in, he could see mental healing and physical healing and spiritual healing as just different states of healing. Like we look at water, the state of water. Water can be invisible as gas or air. It can be in a different form, like in ice, but it's still water. And that's the way it is with the qualities of healing, mental, physical, and spiritual healing. Yogananda talks about the nature of spirit is purity and harmony, beauty, vitality, and radiance. And we sing an old song in Sunburst, and I tell you, we were young, and we were just on fire sometimes. It was just amazing. There's an old Sunburst song we sing. It's called "I Want to Run Like the Wind and Never Get Tired Till I Fly Just a Little Bit Higher." And it was that way. It was that way. So when you have, in a couple of years, we had 300 people living in 3 or 4 different communities. And it was pretty amazing because the amount of energy that was generated there made the time between a visualization and a manifestation getting really short. So, 5 or 6 stores, the largest natural food distribution in the United States in several years. It was because with the group meditation, morning and evening, just pulled all the Spirit's energy and reinforced all these projections. The thing that really sticks with me is the nature of peace. Yogananda said, everything you do should be done in peace. This is the most and the best medicine for your mind and soul. It is the most wonderful way to live. During the early part of the 2000s, about 15, 16 years ago, I was going through some more mental challenges in myself. I had been meditating for about, over 30 years. But the thing about the path of meditation and pranayama, some things come up on your path, even though you're living the best you can. And I was tasked to try to, because I couldn't function too much anymore if I didn't do something about it. So I tried various different therapies. I did medication. I did spiritual healing, hands-on alpha stimulation. I was just trying all the different tools that are in the world for about almost a year. And one thing that really stuck with me that helped me maintain my sense of peace and sense of clarity and calm my mind was this affirmation: I am calm, I am peaceful, I am relaxed. And just every day I would lie down on my bed and I just repeat that over and over and over. It was a mantra almost, and it really helped me. But I had to look at all the other ways that I could heal myself from this mental thing that was going on. And anyway, that really helped. Another affirmation that I've been using off and on is, I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine spirit fills me within and without. This is Paramahansa Yogananda. And the thing I realize about spiritual teachers is they've been able to they've had hard lives. They've had to work through a lot of, you say, karma or different things in their lives, and then they were able to have compassion and an understanding to share their knowledge, their wisdom with others. And I think this is true with all of us. We have the difficulties that we go through, mental, physically, and spiritually. Those are the things that bring us the most joy and the most understanding. Another healing practice, which that is very helpful for me and for others that I've noticed, is once an hour, pause for several conscious breaths and notice if there are any changes in your consciousness. And this is to regain peacefulness and living in the moment. And then select 1 or 2 hours every day to practice a worry fast. Affirm, I can only do my best, no more. I am satisfied and happy. And this is regardless of what your mind is thinking or what you're feeling. So it's a very, these changes take a while. They sometimes take a while. But sometimes you get like a instantaneous healing. It's like, wow. It just, like with that experience with Norm in the meditation room floor, it was just a wonderful thing. But as I grew older, I understood that spiritual teachers sometimes choose to take on the karmas, some of the challenges of others, so that they too can be clear to find their spiritual depth inside of them. And I think that's what Norm was doing off and on over the years, as Yogananda did, as Sri Ajwar did, as Lahiri. All the spiritual lineage teachers have had experiences that they've been able to empathize with others. So underlying all the aspects of healing is thought. And thought is something that we project, we think, because we are physical beings in these bodies. And the power of thought can make you, it can break you. And it's very powerful. Yogananda was talking from a state of self-realization when he said that the power of thought has created everything we see. It is this power that can heal this body, mind, and spirit. Yogananda says, it is God, the sole creator of everything, and it is he and she who walks through physical, mental, and spiritual laws. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving through you, a joy. We were so blessed on this planet to have a person like Yogananda, and then those that helped write down what he was saying in the last years of his life, and also during his many talks that he gave as he was moving across the country in the 20s and 30s. And so we're so blessed here at Sunburst to have Brother Norm, who was a direct disciple of Yogananda, in the late 40s, who was able to, as a young man, to learn from Yogananda and the technique of Kriya that we offer here. Norm has said that the realization that each one of us has had the realization that each one of us is connected to the life force from the great interdimensional sun. And through the years, through our meditations, many of us that have been in the community, in the organization for many years, have had experiences that confirm what he's saying here, that there exists above our head, the crown of our head, a brilliant sun. I had that experience very early, as I couldn't figure out why I had that experience. I'd only been meditating a couple months, and I just sat down, and all of a sudden the top of my head was opened up, and I saw the sun shining on top through the top of my head, and the energy or the voice, I can't describe it as a voice, but it just said, my son, I'm always near. I'm always here. And then I realized that each one of us interdimensionally right now, at this moment and in every moment, has that sun above our heads. And we can draw down that energy into our bodies. And that's the purpose of meditation, is to find unity with that great sun. So as we go into our meditation, let's sit up straight and relax the shoulders. And bring our conscious awareness to the place that's between the eyebrows and down from the crown of the head. And just feel like we're just sitting there very comfortably, sitting in that awareness. And you can softly close your eyes or just kind of keep them open. If they like mine are kind of fluttering, you can close your eyes, or you can just let a little light in below. We want to just breathe deeply. Take a couple breaths. And April's going to lead us into our quiet time with the sound of the bowls. Please, please follow me in prayer. O Divine Spirit, help me to draw upon your life energy more and more each day, so that this precious mind that you have given me can project your divine thoughts into your creation, that they may bring abundant health, abundant healing for our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. That through this process we may do your will to create a heaven upon this earth. Amen.
Inshallah.